would like to welcome the teachers to Emerging Technology in K-12 Education Professional Development session. Today's session is going to be on integrating a new and emerging technological app into your math classroom, and that particular app is called PhotoMath. Before we get started, I'm going to go over the agenda. So first, the first 5 minutes, I'm going to review, starting off with the agenda. I'm going to review the objectives because before every presentation or professional development session, I believe that everybody needs to know exactly what to get out of the presentation. Everyone needs to know the goals that need to be accomplished because it helps you stay on task. It helps you focus in on the materials that I am presenting today. And then we'll do a PhotoMath introduction. What is it? And what are the main features of this new app? And then we'll run into an introductory math lesson and activity. And so I want the purpose of this professional development session is to show teachers not only the features of the app, but how to integrate this app into the classroom. And so I'm going to go over 2 example classroom activities in which teachers can integrate the app into the classroom. And so the next part is actually the activity in which students will be using PhotoMath and using the app to check other students' work. And either the teacher can go around using the app to check students' work or allow students to download the app on their iPads in class and do an activity where students complete a worksheet of problems, switch papers, and use the app to grade the worksheet of quiz. I think for this particular activity, both of the activities are going to involve the students actually switching papers and using the app to grade each other's papers. And then lastly, we'll talk about developing a professional development opportunity for parents. So it's important. The reason this professional development is important is not only for the teachers to be able to implement it into the classroom, but it's also important for the teachers to show the students how to implement it into the classroom and to also show the parents, educate the parents about the app so that they can use it at home and also be cautious as they're watching their students do their children do their homework, and to be cognizant of not allowing their children to use the app to do all of the work. Instead, use the app to check the work. And then lastly, we'll do a debrief in closing about the app and future implications of the app. There are 3 objectives and or goals for this particular professional development session. The first goal or objective is teachers will be able to effectively integrate PhotoMath into their math lesson. And so we're not just going to talk about it, but we're going to walk teachers through an example of 2 activities, very similar activities, just different problems, in which they can actually use PhotoMath as part of their daily lesson or their daily activity. The second objective is that teachers will be able to effectively demonstrate to students on how to effectively use PhotoMath to check math problems. So not only are the teachers integrated in their classroom, but a part of that is teaching the students how to use the app to check math problems and to also talk to the students about the app, about the pros and the cons of the app. The pros are definitely, it's a more efficient and effective way to check your work. However, some of the cons is that students may use the app to do the majority of the work and not be able to really understand the concept if they're just getting the answer. And so really talking to students about that. And lastly, the third objective is teachers will be able to communicate to parents on how to use PhotoMath to check their children's work. So it's also important that the parents understand how to integrate the app PhotoMath at home and to make sure that they can use the app to check their math homework, their child's math homework, and also to monitor the child's use of the app and to make sure that the children is doing the work and then using the app to check the work, not using the app to actually do the work. Before going any further, let's actually talk about the app. So the mobile app is called PhotoMath, and it is what you would consider an emerging technology. It's the type of app that has just come into the market the last few years, and is definitely changing the way math problems are solved in the classroom. So, PhotoMath is a mobile app that allows the user to snap a picture of a math equation and deliver the solution instantly while providing step by step instructions on how the solution was come about. And I would say, even in the last 10 years, you wouldn't be able to imagine uh, being able to do something like that with a telephone, right? We can imagine typing in or pressing buttons on a calculator to come out with a solution. But to actually take a picture of the math equation and instantly see the solution on the screen is nothing short of amazing. But as we know with technology, there are definitely pros and there are definitely cons to this type of technology. And so, some of the pros, obviously, you get the equation instantly. So time on trying to solve a problem, a math equation, manually is almost none, right? And so that's always a good thing. Also, as a teacher and as a student or as a parent, when you're trying to check your work to see if you've come to the right solution or the student has come to the right solution, it's an efficient and effective way to do that, and in a timely way. You don't have to sit and scribble on pieces of paper and then not really knowing if the answer is correct, or then you have to go find the answer key and try to figure out the answer is correct. You just flash your camera, take a picture, and you can see the solution instantly. Obviously, the cons, which a lot of parents are worried about, is that you know a student could really abuse the app and really use the app to do most of the work and not really learn how to come to a solution, right? They would get the answer and they would pretty much get the steps to it, but you wouldn't really know if the student actually knew how to do it if they kept using it. And so that definitely is a con, because then that leads to cheating, that leads to being really reliant on this type of technology. And when the technology is unavailable, we really don't know if the student is competent in this particular field or not. And so that's a big con to this particular technology. However, if we use it effectively and integrate it in the curriculum and make it useful, then it could be a very powerful type of technology. And it's known as the first camera calculator. Again, you take a picture of the math equation, which we'll see later, and the equation is displayed instantly. And again, it's valuable for students, parents, and teachers checking math homework. So, how does it work? How does this thing work? And you'll see a video of how it works. But let's just talk about a few important steps. So first you have to download and launch the app. You download it from the iOS App Store, or Google Play for Android users, and you launch the app. And what you do is you place the equation, which is on the paper or screen, inside the frame while holding the camera directly above it, and you can drag to adjust the size and the shape of the frame so that you can get the full scope of the problem within this frame, and the result will appear on the screen in red instantly. And once the result has appeared on the screen in red, you're able to tap the red button and you're able to see the steps that it took to get to the solution, and you're able to see a variety of other options to explore the math problem. You can edit the math problem. You can, look at the steps. You can clear the history, and you can do a lot of other features once you're inside the app. And we'll look at that in depth in a video coming soon. Before going any PhotoMath can be used for a variety of equations. And so you ask, okay, so what grade would PhotoMath be used for best? And really, is when you start teaching students about addition and subtraction, that's when you can start using PhotoMath. So addition and subtraction, short and long, multiplication and division, short and long, fractions and mixed numbers, comparing fractions and mixed fractions, complex arithmetic operations, absolute values, algebraic expressions, exponentiation and roots, linear equations, including linear equations with restrictions and linear equations with parameters, derivation and integration, limits, binomial coefficients, trigonometry, and a ton of more types of math problems that can be solved by this app. So you're talking about from basic math arithmetic all the way up to a calculus. And so it's a very useful app. And so again, students can use this app to ensure that they are to check their work while they're working. So once the student attempts the problem, they can check the problem. Once they see the problem is correct, they can move on. Once they see they don't have the right problem, then they can start working to figure out what went wrong. And so it really allows the student, if used effectively, it really allows the student to learn as an individual and to learn independently from really anybody else, right? So they have a math problem. They try to solve it. They use that PhotoMath to take a picture. They see that it's wrong. Okay, so now they can go try to fix it. And once they keep trying to fix it and they just can't quite get to the right answer, then they can use the app to see, okay, how do I arrive to this answer? And that process, over and over and over again, allows that student to really immerse themselves into the process of trying to figure out the math solution, and it really allows them to be an independent thinker and an independent learner. So it's a very, very great app to use if used effectively. PhotoMath. So let's launch the app. And first, we'll be looking at the edit feature, which is at the top that looks like a calculator. And once you press that, you can see once you take a picture of equation and you get an answer, but the equation is not exactly what you're looking for, you can actually edit that equation and make it the correct problem. And so the next feature is the camera feature at the top. It's the next feature next to the calculator. This is when you take a picture of the problem, and in the red you see you have the answer. Once you click on the blue button, though, you can actually see the steps it took to solve that equation. And the steps are very, very detailed. So you can see you have the graph section, and you also have the feedback. Was this helpful? Yes or no? And then the notebook feature is where you can see the history of the problems that you have solved, and you can go back and look at them. You can favorite some of the problems that you maybe were having trouble with, and things of that nature. If you look at the far left tab, you have the language. You can choose the language, the first option. If you're working with students from different backgrounds, you can change the language. You also have a help and feedback tab, where some of the most common mistakes and problems that people using the app need help with, including editing the scan problem, you can get those answers with this tab. Also, how to use. They actually have a tutorial, a quick tutorial on how to use it. You scan the math problems for instant solutions. You learn with step-by-step instructions, as we have saw. You can actually edit using the smart calculator, as you saw as well. And then if the problem has a graph, the graph will also show just a little bit about the app, and then you can sign in using your email, using your Facebook, or using your Google Plus account to actually have a profile. And so now that you have familiarized yourself with the app, now you can go into the classroom and you have a good feel. Of course, you want to familiarize yourself 2 or 3 times or even more to really get a good feel. You don't want to just do it one time, because when you go into the classroom and you got 30 or 40 students using the app, and they need help, you got to really understand how the app works and how to answer some of those questions that your students are going to have. And so once, though, you actually go into the classroom, um, my suggestion is that you use your do now for the first 10 or 15 minutes of class to work with the students and help them explore and allow them to familiarize themselves with the PhotoMath mobile app as they do now with classroom iPads. And so the do now is an activity that I did as a teacher every single day when students came in. The first 5 to 15 minutes, depending on the activity, they came in, they got out their pencil, they got out their notebook, and they got out their classroom materials, and they started working on a problem that I had on the board, and it was called the Do Now. It was a section of the class to really get them ready for the rest of the class period. It was a behavioral management tactic, so that students come in with a really serious behavior. Once they come in, they already know that they have something to do as soon as they step foot in the classroom. And so, if you know, if you want to incorporate this into your class, I think it would be a good idea to have the students, one, come in and actually interact with them. And this will be good. They could use their cell phones or they could use their iPads. In my class, the school provided iPads, and so every student had an iPad, specifically for those students who didn't have a cell phone or who couldn't afford a cell phone. So either or, iPads or phones, you make it a do now, and you walk the students through downloading the PhotoMath app from the iOS store or Google's Play. They launch the app, and before your lesson, they're going to explore it. And so you give the students, depending on the activity, maybe you want a short activity, maybe you want a longer activity, like I said, 5, 10, or 15 minutes to explore the app. And what would really be useful is if you created a worksheet that had certain task items that you are requesting that the students complete while using the app. That would give students a purpose once they open the app. So one of those things could be, one of those example task items could be find the camera feature and take a photo of a math problem. Um, and so the student would then find that they would have to open the app, find the camera option, whether it's a worksheet that they already have in their book bags, in their books, whether it's a math problem in their book or a worksheet in their math folder. They can take the camera. They can use the camera feature to take a picture of the problem. Another task item could be find the edit problem feature, and edit your problem to make it something different. Again, that allows the students to first find the edit, to go through the icons, find the edit feature, play around with it, edit it, and still find the answer to the problem that they edited. And so it's a really good way to get students to explore the app and really get a good feeling for it. And another task item could be find the problem history and clear the history. So you would find the notebook is actually called it's the notebook icon, and you have history, and then you click on the trash can and it says clear history. This will clear all your items, and you press clear, and now you have a clear history. And so this will be a really good way for students to really explore the app by giving them task items, because you want them to actually complete tasks similar to how they're going to use the app in real life. And so once they use the app in real life, they're going to have to use the camera feature. They might have to use the edit feature. They might not use the clear history feature, but they're going to, maybe we give them a task to copy down the step by step instructions from the app. So that means they would have to, one, take a picture of a problem, get the answer, click on the answer in the red box, view the step by step instructions, and then write them down. So those things I think would really be good for your students, and give them task items as part of their do now. Give them a finite number of time to complete the task, and then review it. And I think after that, students would be really ready to use that app in the classroom. And even if you don't think that your students would be ready, because you know, from our perspective, students are very tech savvy. I mean, it doesn't take them long, as this is their everyday lifestyle, using apps and technology. However, if you feel like that your students won't be ready in one sitting, what you can do is you can give them these task items in homework. So the night before, you give them, I'm not sure if they're able to take the iPads home, but using maybe a library iPad or their cell phones, they can do it for homework. When they come to class, they will have some idea, and then you can do another do now for the first 5, 10, 15 minutes, and then hopefully by then students are really ready to go and really ready to integrate PhotoMath in the classroom. Now that you have completed your do now, and students are familiarize themselves with the PhotoMath app, now you're ready to integrate the app actually into your lesson. And so the first activity is an example activity if students for particularly maybe a ninth grade Algebra 1 class, and they're working on how to evaluate algebraic expressions and fractions. And so we're not really going to go into the other aspects of the lesson, but perhaps you've completed a lesson overview and have even allowed them to watch a Khan Academy lesson on the subject. You review evaluating 3 algebraic expressions as a class, and now you've given each individual student a worksheet to try on their own. And so say you give students 15 minutes to complete each problem, and urging students that they must show their work. Obviously, that's very important in math. It's the 3 words that kill students in math. Those 3 words are show your work. Even as a student, I hated those 3 words, because if I knew the answer, I just didn't understand. If I know the answer and it's right, why do I have to show your work? As we all know, the one thing that math teaches us is that the process is extremely important. It is actually a transferable lesson as well as in life. The process is very important. You can't get from point A to point B without really understanding the process. And so the students complete those math problems. Once each student has completed the problems and demonstrated their work, what you want to happen is, if students are in a group, this is for a classroom that is for students that have students in a group, or even individuals. I guess it doesn't matter. I give 2 sets of instructions. If your students are in groups, you can have one person each group collect everybody's worksheet or work, and exchange it with another group leaders who has collected the work of their members, and exchange it, because the different students are going to grade other students' work. And if your classroom is not in a group, what you can do is just have each person switch with somebody behind them, to the left of them, to the right of them, or in front of them, um, to make sure that they don't have their own worksheet. And so once everybody has a different worksheet, now it's time to integrate the PhotoMath, right? So once the team leader distributes the new papers to his or her group members, then it's time to start working. So what students can do is they can use their iPad or their cell phone to launch the PhotoMath app, and really begin checking and grading the paper, right? And so let's look at the app, which is going to how to actually do that. So we're going to use the screen sharing um, to show how we are going to use the app. So here we go. We're going to scan the first a squared minus b squared. You see at the bottom is the answer. You can click on the red box, and you can see a very detailed solution. And there is no graph to this particular solution, but you can see the work. Let's go to the next one. 4x squared minus 12xy plus 9y squared. At the bottom, you can see the answer in the red box. And again, if you want to see a detailed solution, you can click on the red box. And as you see, the blue is blinking, and it shows a step-by-step solution. And let's go to the next one. 8 plus 36y plus 54y squared plus 27y to the third. Again, you see the answer. You click on the red box. This time, you see an explanation, but you also see a graph that gives the domain and the y-intercept. So the solution is very detailed, and so it really gives an in-depth answer. All right, the next one is a squared minus 4 divided by 2a minus 4, and we see the answer. Click on the red box for the answer, and again, you get a detailed explanation, and even it gets in some problems, it even gets more detailed. So you can actually see some of the details of the problem. And just going through, factor out 2 from the expression, simplify the expression, and you get to a plus 2 over 2. So go to the next one. 4x squared minus 9, pretty simple. You see the answer. This answer actually has a graph. Factor the expression, and you see the graph and how the graph looks. If you want a detailed view on how we got to that solution, you can click on the right item, which expands and shows. And again, you got the roots. This one has roots, domain, minimum, and a y-intercept. So again, a very detailed solution. Next one, p cubed minus q cubed. You see the answer. See the answer to this one as well. And the last one, a squared plus 4a plus 4 divided by a squared minus 4. You also see the answer for that. And so that's how the students will use this particular app, and check the work. They'll see if the answer and the work aligns. If it does, the student gets full points. If not, you can either do no partial credit, or if you're a teacher who gives partial credit, you can give partial credit. Once all of the work has been evaluated by the student will grade the paper, give it back to their group leader, and the group leader will exchange with the other group leader, and the students will return the papers to the owner. If you are a teacher teaching a 12th grade calculus class or an introductory calculus class in a college course, then this will also be helpful. Again, this is an app that ranges from basic arithmetic, 1+1, to calculus and limits. And so in this particular instance, we'll be integrating PhotoMath with calculus, particular limits. So similar to the first activity, You would complete the lesson overview. Maybe you have some activity. You have some type of activity before the where the students work together, and maybe you lead them through the work. Um, and then you give them their individual problems, and you give them 15 to 20 minutes to complete these problems, depending on the complexity of the problems and or the number of problems that you're giving them. And again, you're urging students to show their work. Once each student has completed the problems and demonstrated their work, as same as the previous activity, you're going to urge one student in the group, which is most likely the group leader, to collect the papers and exchange the group papers with another group leader's papers. Or again, if it's individuals, you don't have teams in your classroom, just ask the students to exchange it to the left, exchange it to the right, up or down, whatever procedure you need to use in order to make sure that all of the students have somebody else's paper and they do not have their own paper. And so students will then launch the photo app to check the work and grade the paper. So similar, we will start using the app, and we will take a photo of the first problem, and you see the answer is 1. And you can click the red box, and you can see a very simple solution. And also at the top, you can also see it says show other solutions, and so you'll see later on you'll actually be able to see other methods to solving these issues. And so you see some of the detailed work, evaluate the limit, um, transform the expression, indeterminate form, try transforming the expression, substitute 5x with t, and evaluate the common limit. And so there's no graph. Was the solution helpful? Yes, it was. The next one, the answer, -1/3. You see this was very simple. Evaluate the limit by substituting value x equals 0. Simplify the expression. You kind of get the answer. There's no graph. Was this solution helpful? Yes, it was. And so some simple, some complex. As you see, this is another one. Square root of 5 over 10. And you see this is a very, it has a lot of steps to it, but the steps are very detailed. Evaluate the limit, transform the expression, expand the fraction, simplify the expression even further. Then you want to substitute x equals 5 into the expression, simplify this expression again, and you get the square root of 5 over 10, or in decimal form. But also you can see show other ways to solve this problem, other methods to solve this problem, and there are other ways you can solve this problem. This one using a particular calculus rule, in which shows a different way to solve the problem. Always in math, there are various ways to solve problems, especially in calculus. And so this app also helps students see the variety of ways you can solve the problem. And so was this helpful? Yes, it was. And so students will be able to then just go on and find the solutions to the problem. Positive, if it's approaching positive infinity. The answer to this problem is -4. The next solution is -9/2. And again, you see those multiple arrows on the right, which means there's several ways to solve this problem. And the last problem is 1/4. And so once the students have completed grading the paper, they will they will grade the paper and return those papers to the owner. And so now that you've successfully integrated PhotoMath into your classroom, it's really important that you then develop some type of professional development session for the parents, right? Whether it's a web conference or in-person meeting, the parents really need to understand what PhotoMath is and how they can use it as a parent. So you want to demonstrate to parents how to use Photo App so that they can check the child's math homework. Because unless the parent is a math teacher in a particular field or a math professor, more than likely they won't really remember the specifics to a certain concept. And so it's really the app is really important for those parents so that they can just scan the work, right? But it's also important that the parents not only know how to use the app, but it's important to urge the parents to make sure that their students are not using it to actually do their homework, but they're using the app to check their homework. And so that's very important. And even so, you might urge the parents to say, hey, in order to really make sure that the student's not using it to do their homework, take away their phone, take away the iPad, or any mobile device that the app can be downloaded on, and to ensure that the student is doing the work on its own. Once the student's math has been completed, then you can give them an app and you all can do it together, sit down together and check their work together to see if they have the right answers. And you can even see the step by step solution. So it's a really important tool not only for teachers and students, but it's also important tool for the parents. And so it would be really important for you to set up a web conference or in person meeting with parents and sit down and really help them explore on how to use the photo math, and maybe best just to maybe even create a session where students and parents come to the classroom and you do a simulation homework situation in which the student has to check their homework using the app and you guide that. And so again, it's really important that the students' parents also know how to use the app responsibly. And so, conclusion or future implications, really just it's a new one. It's an emerging technology, and this is the future of education, and it makes one wonder how education or how the trajectory of future K through 12 education and the standards are going to change. Right? Is it going to be necessary for students to learn this type of arithmetic manually when they can just use simple technology to solve it and use their brain power for other things? And so that's really going to be interesting, and it's really um, begs the question to how education is going to change in the next 5 to 10 years with more apps and more emerging technology such as PhotoMath emerges. And so again, PhotoMath utilizes the camera on a smartphone by taking a picture of a math equation and solving it instantly. This app becomes a major topic of discussion because educators also saying it helps students find the solutions without having to work, right? Or if they have a test, they could just use the app, and it's actually would actually be helping them cheat, or things like that. And so it really begs the question, but it really shows that this technology thing is something serious, and it's something to be um, it's something really to take notice of. And so, do students need to manually solve what an app can solve? Well, that's the question, and that's the question we're going to have to solve in the next 10 to 15 years. And so, but until that time, these are just ways. This was just a professional development session to show you how you can integrate it, not run from PhotoMath, but to actually use it and help others use it, such as students and families, use the app responsibly and help it improve and increase student achievement.